What up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing my review for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1 Episode 6 titled Terrifying Miracles. Oh, it's such a nice return to pace. Thank you, Monarch, for returning us back to what was the formula that worked. I actually enjoyed the last couple episodes, but I do think that the last two episodes are kind of on the weaker end. I don't think they have much rewatchability, and as much as I really enjoyed the vibe of episode 4, I thought it had this very creepy, unsettling vibe, I did miss the energy that the show had in the first 3 episodes, and I'm glad we got that back here. The show finally has this bit of life again, and I'm wondering if the reason is because now we're no longer flashing back with the same characters, but instead we're flashing back to the past trio who we have been missing for the last 2 episodes. That was originally the plotline that invested me the most in the first 2 episodes, but I really came to like the modern storyline a lot, and now I'm at the point where I prefer the modern storyline, so having these guys back, I don't know if it's just that I really like those characters, or if it's that it adds this energy to the show, or if it's just that the pacing of the last 2 episodes was so slow, but I really felt like this episode was a nice return to form to the formula that was working the best. But again, I like those last 2 episodes. I liked the character study episodes. I thought that was good stuff, but I am glad to be back to the plot. And oh my gosh, thank goodness, because this episode had a lot of plot. I feel like I finally, for the first time in a while, kind of understand where the show is headed, and that's nice. It's nice to kind of know what the show is about, and I like that a lot. I have a feeling this episode is going to be a lot of people's favorite because it's got a lot of Godzilla, and I liked it for that reason too, but I'm still not sure. I really liked episode 2. I thought that the way the music was used in that episode, the vibe of the episode, the tone, the adventure, it was all really good stuff in episode 2. Episode 2 still might be my favorite. I don't know though. It's tricky. This was certainly one of my faves, and I didn't really have any glaring issues with it like I did with episode 3 when last Godzilla showed up. I felt like this episode was really well done. Although again, it's like Godzilla really doesn't do much but walk in this show, does he? But that's fine because I thought the way he was used in this episode was really well done. I also think it's kind of fun that they've clearly given every single director a Godzilla episode. I'm hoping that keeps up. I would anticipate Godzilla will be back in episode 8 as a result. This episode was directed by Meirez Almas, whose name I definitely messed up. She's clearly got a very character-focused approach to these episodes, and I think that works. But it does seem like they kind of spaced Godzilla out throughout the show so that every director seems to have gotten at least one time with him. Spoiler warning for Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 1 Episode 6. I'm not doing a plot-by-plot, beat-by-beat breakdown of the episode, but I am going to go through my thoughts that I had while watching the episode and share those with you guys, and we'll break down the stuff that I thought was noteworthy. Starting out, we're jumping into 1955, which is interesting because we're now breaking the pattern of the 2-year time jump and basically picking up just a few months after the last time we saw these past characters. Great song in the episode. Obviously love that song at the opening of the episode. I love the King Kong 2000 vibes of it. Famously, it is sung by Al Jolson in that film. I'm Sitting on Top of the World. I think it's a classic, one of my fave songs. I loved the aesthetic of the military ball. I thought it was a really nice look, and I loved how out of place Keiko felt at it. I also loved that Bill Randa dress joke. I thought that was really funny, where he's like, Bill wouldn't look quite as good in that dress. I thought that was a great joke, very well delivered, and I'm glad to see that Shaw's been promoted to captain. He deserves it. Captain Shaw, we stan. I like Shaw a lot. Obviously, we know he'll end off as Colonel Shaw because that's how he is in the modern day. I'm always happy to see General Puckett, and I like that they call it Project Monarch still, just like they did in the Godzilla 2014 film. I like when they bring that kind of stuff back into this show, and I liked the use of that terminology. I also really appreciate how this show touches upon the very tricky world of being a female and being a Japanese in this time period. I thought it's been done very well in this show. I thought it was handled super wonderfully in episode 2, and same for here. I know some people are going to have some issues with that, especially after the last episode, and if you felt called out by it in any way, then you need to do some self-reflecting. You know who didn't feel called out by it? A normal person. Keiko being fearful the government is trying to weaponize the Titans I thought was a super interesting plot point that I'm really shocked the MonsterVerse hasn't touched upon more, seeing as though that was something Doherty clearly wanted to explore. Had he continued with the MonsterVerse in a more direct and official way, I think that is absolutely something the MonsterVerse would have touched upon, and so I'm wondering if this show is going to build to the point where Monarch gets into an impasse with the military because the military wants to start using the Titans as weapons. I really like young Shaw. I think that he has played great. Wyatt Russell is doing a great job in this show, and I want to give some shout outs to him because most people just talk about the Kurt Russell portrayal, and I really like Wyatt Russell's version as well. I think he's got a lot more sensitivity to him, and I really like that. I also really enjoyed the dance scene. scene, and had it not been for the underlying question regarding the love triangle between Keiko, Shaw, and Randa, I would have been all for the romance in this episode, as I thought it really worked. And now we do get a proper payoff to that line from the first episode with Shaw wanting kids, and we see where that comes from. In a way, his wish kinda did come true, with him eventually having to look after Hiroshi after the death of the Randas, which is really unfortunate. I'm still a little confused though when this is happening in the timeline of their relationships, because it seems that this is after the start of Keiko's relationship with Randa, as it's hinted to in episode 3, but maybe it's just a flirtation between them and it hasn't materialized yet. Felt like they almost cheated on Randa at one point in this episode, but maybe not. Maybe this was just before Keiko and Randa were together. In which case, that must really sting to be Shaw. That must hurt. The Monarch outpost in 1955 being the HQ and having it be in Virginia, I thought was very interesting to see. I guess I've always just assumed Monarch's first outpost would be somewhere in the Pacific or on the Pacific coastline. Not that I have an issue with it, I just thought it was quite interesting. Billy Randa, quit being a jerk, please. Sometimes he makes it so hard for us to love him. But what I did like about that is that it kind of played upon what my theories have been, is that Randa's kind of an arrogant, a little bit egotistical guy, and so it makes sense that his relationships to these other people would start to get strained the more power he feels like he's getting. I love that we are seeing the beginning of Monarch's budgetary issues. I do think it's a little weird that it's happening just less than a year after they got their grand proposal and massive expansion from the Godzilla hunt, but I guess maybe it's because all of that hasn't materialized yet. Like, they haven't gotten their formal expansion, they haven't gotten their full budget yet, and it's seeming that they're not going to as a result of the events of this episode. But this was a great way to set up for what Monarch becomes later on, and that's a very underfunded organization that simply does not have the money to do what it needs to do. Shout out to Monster Island in Japan, first of all, and in the MonsterVerse, second of all. And I know that the Skull Island anime refers to Skull Island a couple times as Monster Island, but that was just a bunch of kids calling it that. It just wasn't the same when they did it in the Skull Island anime. Shout out to that being in here. The term kaiju exists in the MonsterVerse, I guess. Doherty had previously said that the term Titan basically is the MonsterVerse equivalent of the word kaiju, but that wasn't ever something legit put into the canon of King of the Monsters. Like, clearly they weren't like, well, the term Titan stands for kaiju. So it's fine to change that. Imagine how much time we could have saved wondering who is and isn't a Titan had they just called these things kaiju in the first place. I guess that might be a little too Pacific Rim, and so they don't want to get those wires crossed, so they avoided it, but even still. Where does the name Godzilla come from? Because they call him Godzilla in this episode. They didn't really call him Godzilla in episode 3. They just name drop him as Godzilla in this episode. Where does that name come from? Is it Odo legend again, or what? I love that they created this call and response machine with radiation where it outputs this fake gamma burst that attracts Godzilla, and it's basically a limited version of the Orca that can only lure the Titans out, which I thought was really cool. I think it's a great use of that type of device. It also plays upon the ideas that I have always wanted to see in the MonsterVerse, that being Godzilla attracted to radiation. I had to rewatch parts of this episode though, because they turned off forced subtitles for the screeners, which, like, what the heck, Apple TV? How am I supposed to know what the Japanese people are saying full time? Not all of the dialogue is really needed. It kind of puts you in Randa's shoes to watch it without the subtitles, but it was a little annoying to be like, oh, were they not translating the dialogue this episode, or is it just that it's not on screen for me for some reason? And it was that it wasn't on screen for some reason. Randa just wants a bromance, man, but Shaw only thinks of women. It's a shame. I also love anytime General Puckett's on screen. I just think his screen time with Shaw is always so captivating. I loved that scene in the backyard. And I like that Shaw chooses his friends over his career, and specifically his love over his career, which is why he doesn't really get a say in how Monarch's handled, leading to its state in 1973. Godzilla's emergence in the past I thought was done very well in this episode. Not only do I love that we're in Japan and that this is Godzilla's first Japanese appearance in the MonsterVerse, which just feels right, but I liked all of it. I thought Dr. Suzuki was a lot of fun. He gives this great energy as this frantic scientist. It's a very sci-fi trope that they're playing with that I thought was used really well here. I also love that he says that some miracles are meant to be terrifying, calling back to the title of the episode. That was great. And is it that Randa knows about the romance? Because he has that line about not wanting to be a third wheel. So does he know? Does he? Couldn't quite tell. Who was in love with who first? Either way, I think it's a great character flaw to give Shaw that he puts his love first. It's very compelling, it's very human, it's very real, and I like that it has major consequences. Godzilla's emergence, like I said, in the 1950s, it was amazing. It was still kind of weird to see such a small Godzilla in the MonsterVerse. He's just not lining up with his height in the 2014 flashback, but it's fine because he's mostly in line with his height from the last episode. All the people saying that he got juiced by that nuke and that's what grew him to his size in 2014, clearly not. The dude just grew up over time. I don't know why that nuke didn't supercharge him and make him explode like an atom bomb like he was said to do in King of the Monsters. For the people saying saying that it's because nukes had less radiation back in the day, you clearly don't know anything about the Castle Bravo bomb. What are you talking about? Quit trying to explain plot holes with outside logic. It doesn't make any sense. Godzilla spitting that radiation gadget out, it was so much fun. It was such a fun Godzilla moment that felt very Toho of him. It's kind of like a -1 Shin Godzilla style thing to do. I really liked it. And I'm glad that Godzilla had a reason for showing up. I'm glad that he's not just conveniently there. I'm also glad that Keiko got to learn he's still alive before she died, and I thought the whole scene was handled really well. From having that really sensitive moment between Shaw and Keiko where they're trying to be like, hey, our romance is gonna cause some real problems, they get to share their kiss, and then Godzilla ruins it. I thought the whole thing was done super well. It also makes sense that Godzilla would be the one responding to this because that's not part of the natural order, so of course Godzilla would be like, what is going on up there? And at the end of the episode, it's revealed they lost control of Monarch. The military has now taken over and ruined all things. If the military is so heavily involved with Monarch now, I wonder if that the reason Monarch loses its funding is because now they really have to keep the Titans a secret so that they don't get bombed or killed or whatever. And that leads to Monarch basically looking like this worthless organization that only existed to fight Godzilla, and now that Godzilla's seemingly gone, they serve no purpose. And that's why they get defunded, leading to 1973. Meanwhile, in 2015, I thought we had a really solid 2015 plotline this episode as well. I thought both plotlines were done really well. Both were very captivating, I felt. We love Duval. I think she's a great character. I was shocked to see that she abandoned Tim, but I love the character. And now we finally get to see what Shaw's mission truly is, and he wants to stop more Titan emergencies, but Monarch is not listening to him. It's also a good shout out to the way that people have continually doubted Randa, Shaw, Hiroshi, and even Brooks. I know they didn't mention Brooks, but like even Brooks has been severely mistrusted by Monarch, even though he is definitively right about the Hollow Earth. And that must be what this is all leading to, is just the Randa bloodline really believes in the Hollow Earth and no one else does. It's most likely because Shaw knows about the Hollow Earth because he's been there. I really think he has, but even still, I like that we're now a little bit learning what his plans are. And the reveal that Duval is related to Sandra, I thought was really interesting. Not that there's any hint that Sandra's French in the 2014 film, but I thought it was a really interesting reveal, and by extension, that means she's related to Joe and Ford Brody, which I thought was fantastic. It's a great little lineage to the 2014 film that was done super well, and also gives a really good motivation to Duval. I also love that Kentaro is just hyped to see Shaw when they walk in the house, and like, damn, Shaw exposes May immediately, and it just flies under the radar. Like, nobody catches that? How did Kate and Kentaro not pay any attention to that when he basically is like, May outed you guys, and then they don't notice? Is it just because he calls her Michelle and they're not like aware that's May's proper name, which it seems like that is her proper name? Guys, put 2 and 2 together here. You just got sold out and Shaw just straight up told you. And now we have our mission. I like that we have a mission. I like that we knew what we were doing in this episode from the start. It gave a lot of stakes to it. And I also liked the reveal that that line from the trailer, I'm not taking orders from Monarch anymore, was not the line, because it never really made a ton of sense in the trailer. Shaw already stopped taking orders from Monarch. What are you talking about? And I like that the reveal is that he's talking about Duval. She's not taking orders from Monarch anymore. That was great. I also loved returning to the San Francisco aftermath. The aftermath looked great. The shot was very well realized, but get the Salesforce Tower out of here. I've been bitching about this since the first trailer. You'd think that they'd have time to remove it. Get it out of here, guys. It doesn't need to be here. I loved the team ups in this episode. I loved seeing Tim and Verdugo as a team. I loved that Duval diverted course and teamed with Shaw. I loved that we're seeing like these little groups starting to form. And I also loved the reveal that Monarch is in fact tracking their phones as I thought they would. And I just love me some Tim. I love all of Tim's screen time. He's so great. He is so smart, and his deductive reasoning was so impressive in this episode. The whole scene where he pieces together that map just from holes in the wall was so well done. Why did Hiroshi need so many holes in the wall in the first place? This guy placed so many flags, or is it that he just misplaced one flag over and over and over again each time? And I know there was a bunch of pings on his map in the last episode that got ripped off the wall, but like, dude could have simplified that for himself and made it so much easier to look at. And then we find out that Hiroshi was actually banned from Monarch for using satellites to look at places he wasn't supposed to. And I guess it's because he's tracking gamma bursts on Earth, which I'm still thinking are going to be related to the Ion Dragon, and I think the Ion Dragon will be creating those tunnels to the Hollow Earth, but it's probably just more than likely sources of Titans in general. Hollow Earth portals and sources of Titans near the surface. I think that could very well be what it is, and I really didn't see that coming. I guess I thought that Hiroshi would have abandoned Monarch because they weren't listening to him, rather than being kicked out sometime in the past. But I loved that that's what happened, and I also loved that it gives him a very Bill Randa reputation, where it's like father, like son. Neither of them were taken seriously for their theories, and both of them were right. I also love that Verdugo has to be put on hold just like Barnes was in that other episode. That was a super funny callback. And I liked them name dropping Godzilla Day -2. That was kind of fun. I guess that's when Godzilla emerged 2 days before G-Day, and I guess that Godzilla's emergence in the Pacific caused a gamma burst when he did so, which didn't really make a ton of sense to me because we're led to believe that Godzilla had been surfaced the whole time listening to the Mutos in 2014, and it's not like he was in the Hollow Earth and needed to portal out of it. I think we're being told now that's kind of what happened. Also, this show throws the term gamma radiation around a lot. Is gamma radiation not like deadly to people? Why is there no consequences for it? Seems like it's just like, oh, well, it's just a sign the Titans are there, rather than it being like, oh my god, there's gamma bursts. That's dangerous. And finally, we arrive in Africa. And this was just a great setting to have all of our characters converge for the episodes so that everybody could get shuffled around. It's sort of kind of the mid-season premiere if you think about it in the structure of a more traditional show that would have aired. And this was a good way to kind of reset everything. I loved Shaw and his love for the Randa girls. I thought that was a super cute little line when he's seeing so much of Keiko and Kate. Oh my god, May wanting to go home rather than save the entire planet is the most May thing May could have ever done and is the most May thing to happen in this show. I hope her family gets squashed by the Titans. I don't care how many people she's looking after. She's the worst. I can't stand her, man. I think it's fun that Shaw's accidentally started this revolution within Monarch, which makes sense because his speech in the last episode made so much sense. Monarch needs to do more. Are they trying to stop the Titans? Or are they just trying to stop more emergencies? Or what is it that they're doing? Either way, I'm siding with Shaw, and I like that Kentaro initially does too. Shaw continuing to let them off the hook and be like, if you want out of here, just go. I thought that was great that he gives them the choice. I'm wondering if what's happening here is Shaw is trying to basically use Godzilla as a weapon, kind of what Keiko was afraid of, but rather than using Godzilla as a weapon against mankind, Emma Russell style, I think Shaw is going to be trying to weaponize Godzilla against other Titans. I think that's what he's going to want. I think Hiroshi is going to want the Titan emergencies to not be a thing anymore. I think he's going to want to close the Hollow Earth portal somehow or kill the thing opening them. I think probably what they're wanting Godzilla to do is go to the Hollow Earth and wipe through all the Titans in it. I would bet that's what they're hoping Godzilla will do without really realizing that Godzilla's got his whole natural order thing that he's trying to look after. Hiroshi time! I loved this whole scene. It was so well done. I loved them finding Hiroshi. The music was great. The kind of sentimental vibe of it was great. I love how everybody's getting so hyped except Hiroshi, who's like, oh my god, they're in the blast zone, they need to run, which is exactly what I was thinking too. Having the knowledge from the trailer that they were standing on Godzilla made the whole scene so much more intense than not knowing Godzilla was gonna be there. And the emergence was done so well in the present. It was done much better than the one in the past. It was so much more intense. I don't know why Shaw didn't recognize the device in the back of Hiroshi's truck was clearly a modified version of that radiation amplifier, but it was such a great way to lure Godzilla out. I don't know why Hiroshi was doing it. Like, what was the purpose of bringing Godzilla to that location? Not entirely sure, other than if he was just trying to test it out, which I don't think he was, because it was a portal on his map. So clearly there was something there that he was trying to attend to. But either way, I thought it was a great way to reveal Godzilla. I'm shocked more people didn't die in that rock slide though. Like, only one guy eats it, when I feel like realistically all of them would have died. But it was great. I was a little confused on why Godzilla was so sleepy when he got to the surface, like having his eye closed before he crawls out of the ground and he like lays there for a second. I'm also a little curious on like, how did he get there? You'd think that he would have used his atomic breath to tunnel up from the Hollow Earth the way he does in Godzilla vs. Kong, but the way they play it in this episode makes it seem like dude was just sleeping under the ground. Like maybe he just digs his way there. He can crawl through the ground and dig his way to a place he wants to just kind of sleep, and dude was just sleeping on the surface, and so this radiation amplifier woke him up and just caused him to kind of dust his back off and get up out of the ground, which didn't make a ton of sense to me because it feels like he should have been there for either thousands of years for that to be the case, Methuselah style, or it feels like he should have atomic breath exploded out of the ground like he does in Godzilla vs. Kong. Well, okay, why did those helicopter guys need Tim to tell them to pull up? Like, dudes, use your eyes. Godzilla's in front of you. Get away from it, probably, is the wise call. I thought the whole scene was so well done. I loved Godzilla. I also really love it when Godzilla looks directly at people, but like, dude must have the most transformative power in the world with his eyes. Godzilla's got this a million mile gaze that can just peer into people's souls and change their perspective, apparently. Because somehow Ford went from fearing Godzilla to completely understanding him within that moment. Mark Russell went from hating Godzilla to accepting him just by looking him in the eyes. And Kate, who should have been paralyzed with fear, was kind of like excited that he looked at her. It was kind of a weird reaction, and I wish she was way more traumatized by the appearance of Godzilla. Like, that should have been something that sent her over the edge, but instead she was just kind of like, oh my, that's Godzilla. I love when Godzilla's treated like a true force of nature as well, the way that that his tail strikes the mountain and kind of sends these rocks tumbling. It was all really well done. And I bet Godzilla was, in fact, following Hiroshi out of there, as it seems he follows a similar path to the one Hiroshi took, and if Hiroshi's got that radiation device, it makes sense Godzilla was tracking it down. I hope that the showrunners remember Godzilla can't be seen by the public. Dude can't just trace his way across Africa on the surface. He must be unnoticed. So they better call back to that in the next episode where they're like, well, Godzilla got away. He disappeared into the ground again. Or something to say Godzilla gets away without the public seeing him, because it's so clear in King of the Monsters the guy has not been seen on the surface by anybody. Nobody's seen him since 2014. Fantastic Godzilla design also. I love the way that Godzilla moves like an old man or like a dude in a suit in this show. I thought that was really great. The way he kind of has to get up using his hands on his knees was a very Nakajima kind of movement. And I thought the whole scene was so well done. I really liked the Godzilla design. I really think it's a fantastic design. As much as I love the King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong design, I do admit it's a little overly fan servicey to make the spines the 1954 spines. I think it still works really well. There is a little bit of like weirdly wide proportions to that Godzilla at times. Sometimes he looks better than others in those movies. But I thought overall here, this Godzilla design kind of takes the core idea of the 2014 Godzilla, takes the core idea of the 2019 Godzilla, and blends them in a really beautiful way. Still not sure if I like it more than the 2019 design yet, but I do really like it. I do feel like, though, Godzilla really at this point needs a consistent theme within the MonsterVerse. Either give him the 2014 theme back, or just commit to the Godzilla vs. Kong theme. Like, that's clearly the one Junkie's gonna use again for the new Godzilla Kong, the New Empire movie. They're not going back to Ifukube anytime soon. And if you're not going back to Ifukube, at least give Godzilla a consistent theme song, and if it has to be anything, make the MonsterVerse Godzilla theme the one they're currently using in the movies. I felt like using this theme in this show is just weird because it's almost like we're one step removed from Ifukube to get to Junkie, and then we're two steps removed from Junkie to get to this, which doesn't really work for me. Finally, the episode ends with this whole reveal that this whole show is truly just about secrets and lies. Clearly, Shaw did not search through the helicopter crash because Tim isn't dead. The guy's in the trailer. He's not dead for sure. Shaw shows back up. He says he searched the crash. He definitely didn't. He's 100% lying. And he walks up now with a gun. So he probably shot some people. Everybody would have heard that, right? But it seems like he did something nefarious in order to get away. He has the gun. And did he kill people? Maybe so. I think they're kind of making Shaw a bit of like, oh, he's going to be a bad guy. But I just don't think he's going to be that bad of a guy because the dude's on the side of Godzilla all of a sudden, which was a real shock. And I guess that means I'm on Godzilla's side in the show as well. Now, how does that line up with the last episode where Shaw gave some heater speeches about how Monarch lets everybody down, about how let them fight is irresponsible, about how Godzilla could have lost, and if that happened, it would have been a bad day for humanity. And now he's like, I'm trying to help Godzilla, which again, I'm thinking, maybe is he trying to help Godzilla locate other Titans so that Godzilla can kill them before they wake up? Is he trying to have Godzilla go to the Hollow Earth to fight Titans so that they don't come to the surface? Or is it that he's just trying to get Godzilla to go to bed somewhere? I don't know, but I actually do believe that he doesn't want Godzilla dead. I do believe that he wants to save humanity. I do believe he wants to stop another G-Day. And I do believe he's ultimately gonna be a good guy in heart and motive, but not in execution. Kate suddenly being an optimist at the end of this episode after all of the crushing defeats they just suffered, I thought was really weird and kind of out of character for her. I also just cannot stand the weird dynamic Kate has with May where they're holding hands and stuff. I know that it could just be platonic friendship, and if that's what it is, I'm all for it. But I really think they're leading to this weird love triangle where it's like, well, there's a love triangle in the past and therefore there must be one in the present. Past parallels, Kate and Kentaro and May are going to be in a love triangle, which I don't like because first of all, I don't think Kate and May have had enough experience together to earn a love triangle. But also, it's so weird, man. I still am not over how weird it is to have brother and sister going after the same person when the person's already been with the brother. I think it's just strange, man. Also, I just don't care. I don't care about May. I don't care about May. I don't care about her life. I don't care about her family. I don't care about her yet. The show's given me no reason to care about her yet. It's only given me reasons to dislike her. And next episode's surely gonna be the May episode where we dive into her past story. We find out all about her life. We find out about how she's really a good person trying very hard to do good things and she's just been put in these crappy situations. It's just too little too late because I'm already on the May hate train. It's gonna take a lot to get me off of it. I'm sure the next episode will try very hard. You guys waited a little too long and you made her a little too annoying. The way she like completely does not care about Kentaro at the end of the episode pissed me off because like dude saved your life. He should have let you get smacked by that truck, but instead he saved your life and you couldn't give two shits about the guy. Why? Because he broke up with you? Get over it. But I do like that the gang's broken up now. Things are at a real impasse. May's gonna go home in the next episode. Clearly Kate and Kentaro are gonna be approached by Tim, who tries to recruit them into Monarch. That's very much where they're headed. headed. And I'm excited to see all that go down, and I'm very excited to see whatever the hell plan Shaw comes up with to try and help Godzilla out, whatever that means. That was a shocking twist in this episode that I did not see coming, and I really have no clue where that's gonna lead. All right, what did you think of this episode? Comment below and let me know. I'm very curious to hear what people think. I have a feeling this is gonna be lots of people's favorite episode. Again, still not sure if it's mine, but I'm very curious to hear if it was yours. What was your favorite part of the episode? What was maybe your least favorite part of the episode? Leave that down below. Big thank you to Apple TV for sending me the screeners. I really appreciate it, making it possible for me to do this. Also, big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for their support. The support of the Patreons is why I can continue to make videos like this for you guys. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.